So some of you guys may or may have not noticed there has been something missing from the channel, missing from the garage for quite some time. And that of course would be the BMW F30 340i. Now this was a fun car I had done a series of very basic videos with. If you haven't checked that out, I'll put a link up here somewhere. 2018 BMW 340i, xDrive, great cars, MHD Stage 2, just some basic bolt-ons, all that kind of stuff. Really enjoyable vehicle. I really felt like it was something that I had looked forward to, kind of exploring the B58 platform, stepping outside my typical world of Audis. And I put together a very basic series, which I thought was pretty enjoyable. Definitely had a lot of fun with the car. I reached a point with that car where I did run into some problems that, in my view, as a car enthusiast and a person putting together content, really the way the car was starting to kind of fall apart and there was some issues starting to kind of appear, I started recognizing that like the amount of money it would have taken to get the car back up to standards to what I would call like YouTube quality, it just didn't really make sense. So we're talking a 2018 BMW, car had around 62,000 miles on it. And man, honestly, the car was kind of falling apart, to be quite frank with you guys. The interior, I noticed, was fading quite a bit. The steering wheel itself had started to become very discolored. I thought that was quite strange. Was getting a lot of squeaks, a lot of creaks, like the dead pedal, like for your left foot. Man, that car, it always felt like it had a little bit of a wiggle to it, like just a little bit of give. It just never felt like anchored and solid. That always kind of bothered me. The body of the car, just the total exterior, I don't know who ever had it before me, but they had actually driven what I suspect to be maybe through some type of construction site, or maybe there was some type of paint being sprayed or something related to building or construction, because it had all like these little teeny tiny like little white flecks. And after extensive detailing, paint correction and whatnot, it just, so many of them still lingered, and I really feel like it just took away just the appearance of the car. In addition to that, because the car came from up north, the front bumper had been drilled, those 4 holes for the front license plate. I personally hate front license plates. You know, living in the South, that's just not something that we have here, and I always felt like it looked really ugly. So, you know, it's like you take it off, it's like, I got those 4 ugly holes. Long story short, eventually somebody hit the car, the front bumper, on top of having holes, it got cracked. Not that it was anything major damage, but by the time I priced out replacing the bumper, respraying the hood, blending in with the fenders, perhaps more paint correction to get those white spots off the car, several $1,000s. Needed the PCV, needed front brakes, needed rotors, needed shocks. Tires were getting to be pretty worn as well, just another thing on the list. And I just felt like overall, like it's just all these like little things just stacking up, you know, and just with the age, the mileage of the car, the existing value of it, I just didn't think it really made sense to put any more money into the car, to be quite honest, because, you know, I felt like it was so far away from what I would call within the YouTube space being a clean car. So now I know a lot of you guys may hear that and be like, yeah, man, you gave up way too early. I could have done that in my garage in like an hour. That's cool, man. That's cool. You know, I'm not a guy, I don't own a paint and body shop. For me, I just had to think about like what made sense. So decided to go ahead and part ways with the F30. I don't regret having that car. You know, it treated me pretty well, despite some of the shortcomings. I still think they're good cars for the money. You know, I've always been a fan of the F30s. I think they are still a classic BMW body style, one of the last models, you know, with analog gauges, and still felt very mechanical, and it definitely had a lot of charm. The other thing too is just like, because the F30 is such a common car, I think for me, like the way I tend to approach my modifications as an enthusiast, I tend to pick cars that are a little bit less common, less run of the mill. You know, for example would be like my S6 series, right? There were some, but it just felt like one of those cars that people were less likely to modify, right? Like everybody has an F30, right? Like that car's been around for so long, they're so mass produced, like everybody has an F30, to be quite honest. So it's just like to try to invest money into growing some type of content with that, like, you know, it just felt like it was too crowded of a niche, to be quite honest. You know, like the RS3, I mean, it's good. I mean, it's definitely not unheard of. It's not the rarest of cars, but it is a little bit more uncommon, right? Like it's just not something you see as much. So for me, I tend to try to put a little bit more focus on kind of those, I guess, unique specialties rather than something that's just so cookie cutter, so everyday copy paste Beamer bro, if that makes sense. As far as my timing in terms of selling the car, having been an advisor in the past, like quoting things out, just having a good idea of what things run, with all the paint and body issues, cosmetic issues, interior wear, brakes, all that kind of stuff, tires, alignment, suspension, all those things starting to break down. I was just glad I sold it before like I really needed to dig in my pocket and really start just sinking money into it. So I think my timing was good as far as not keeping it too long and getting into it before things got really expensive. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying it was an unreliable car. I mean, it's just like any car starts to break down over time, but it's just one of the things you just have to make that informed decision and decide like, you know what? If I've been thinking about selling it for a long time, that means I need to sell it. And that's basically how you can find yourself an answer to that question. So with that being said, guys, farewell to the F30. It was definitely a good car. Consider checking one out. If you think about getting one, you can probably pick one up for a pretty good deal. If you have the parts, the resources, always love and appreciation for the F30 guys. No knock, great platform. It just, in my particular case with what I was planning on looking at in terms of like channel content and whatnot, it was the time to sell. And I trust and believe that I made the right decision. So that's all for this one, guys. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.